I've mentioned a few times over the years the difference in working in the Robbery Bureau and Homicide Bureau. Homicide, when I was there, was like fine dining. You go in and got the really nice tablecloths, and the napkins are nice, and the silverware is immaculate. Waiter or waitress are very professional, and got the slow music in the background. The ambiance is just perfect. 20 investigators, and at that time 110, 120 homicides, 130, something like that. But you spread that out over a year and 20 investigators, and it's not too bad. So you take your time on your cases, and got plenty of help, and whatever you need, it'll get done. Because when homicide speaks, people listen. And robbery, on the other hand, is fast food. It's McDonald's or Wendy's, and you're slinging burgers and fries, and drive-through windows backed up, and all the registers are occupied, 7 or 8 deep. Everybody wanting their food right then. Just ain't enough time. Now, I used to like to make my scenes. You get a better appreciation for the crime you're investigating if you actually can see the scene. That way, when you're reading reports or chatting about your case, you can visualize what you've seen out there. In homicide, obviously, you did that. Robbery, you didn't have time. Now, every once in a while, I'd try to get out there and look at a scene. Either a robbery that was really, really bad, or if you had some of these robbery crews and they were just hitting place after place, you got where you would go out on those. But for the most part, you're just working those cases. Now, the theory that I worked under was what I call the Walmart system for robbery cases. Because I had figured out that, every time you go and make a scene somewhere, or trying to look the scene over or work a scene or whatever, you got all your other cases that are going on. Well, of course, if you've got these task force all over the city out looking for people, it is very hard to be on a scene and you'll get a phone call from one of those task force you got out looking for somebody else, and they're wanting information. Well, you don't have it because it's back at the office, and then you got to call the office, get somebody to go look in your file, and it's just a mess. So I decided that the best way to do this was, for the most part, I was going to stay at the office. I was going to have the task force groups out looking, or the gang unit, and I'd get them to see what they could see, and they'd call me, and I could coordinate all my cases from the robbery office. And it was very productive. We had good task force. The gang unit was really, really good, and got a lot accomplished, and it wasn't quite as frustrating when you're out there juggling all these cases and you're on a scene. So even though I didn't see a whole lot of the robbery scenes, we got a lot of cases solved just by directing it from the office. Now, I did that same strategy when I went to security squad. security squad. We investigated all police shootings, and at that time anyways. Now TBI handles all the shootings. Security squad is just there to assist TBI, and security squad only looks to enforce any policy violations. Criminal aspects of the shooting are handled by TBI. Anyways, I took that same Walmart philosophy security squad. When we had a case on an officer, I'd put a plan together, and I'd always sit down with one of the other investigators, especially the ones that worked organized crime, and they knew how to operate all that machinery and spy stuff that we had. And once we got the plan in place, instead of me going out there trying to run it from the field, I always just assigned somebody on the surveillance group to be in charge. And usually we had a vehicle, and we called it the Enterprise. It had all kinds of cameras, and you just name it, it was on this system. You could park it anywhere and nobody would suspect there was cameras all over it filming. But anyways, I'd get somebody out there to coordinate it. And that way, they're out there on the scene, and they'll know what they need to do, because I trust them enough to handle that aspect of it. And I could sit in the office, and then they could call me if they needed any information or questions or decisions on if to take the officer down or not. And it was a lot less stressful, I found, being in charge of a case and being able to just sit there in the office and drink my coffee, listen to the radio, and take calls from whoever I had assigned to be the investigator in charge out on the scene or scenes or the surveillance, whatever it was. And we had a case in robbery one time, and it was a robbery crew, and they were just robbing Hispanics. And they were hitting 3 or 4 apartments a night all over the city, going in and robbing everybody inside the apartment, and they did really ugly things. And this went on for months, and we put a group together, and it was my case, and we got the Metro Gang Unit at that time before us and the county split back up again. But we had them, and I got investigators from all over the investigative bureaus, and we started going out at night, setting up in different areas where this robbery crew had hid. Well, one night we finally jumped them right after they'd done a robbery, and they shot at somebody or shot somebody, one or the other. But anyways, the chase was on, and there was robbery guys. They were running on foot and took off in cars, and I mean, we probably had 60 officers out there, officers and investigators and deputies, and we got most of the robbery crew that night, but we got them in all different kinds of locations, and some of them we got them at their house. So I'm out there, and I've got a gang unit officer with me, and he's got a cell phone, and I've got my personal cell phone and a robbery cell phone, and people are calling in about what they've got on their particular scene. So I have to call felony response at 201 Poplar, and I have to get some investigators there, start working on search warrants, because now we've got to search these houses where the robbery crews were hanging out. Well, it's It's not the most comfortable way to handle an operation, but it all worked out. We arrested and charged and sent a bunch of bad people to prison.